Welcome to Relationship Real Talk, Live the Life's podcast. For over 20 years, we've been dedicated to strengthening marriages and families through relationship education. Our core goals are to reduce the Florida divorce rate by 50% by 2029, to increase the marriage rate, and reduce teen pregnancy and out-of-wedlock births. For more information about us, you can visit us at livethelife.org.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Relationship Real Talk. My name is Cameron, and this is
Ashley, my
beautiful wife. Today, we are going to be talking about a skill used here at Live the Life called the daily temperature reading, or the DTR for short. So I just want to, hop right into it. What would you say, give a little background history on the DTR and how this even came about?
So Richard and Lori Gordon, a long time ago, they were kind of coming up with some skills. And actually, I think Virginia Satir is the original author. It's been changed over the years, but they were doing a class in a college course. And they were kind of trying to develop a skill that would help couples learn how to communicate. And so when we're teaching this in a class, we kind of talk about how a lot of couples will kind of just miss each other on a daily basis. And so if they can just come together, preferably daily, as in the daily temperature reading, and gauge the temperature of what's going on with them, it will help them build that connection and communication so that there will be a higher level of bonding, really.
Yeah. That's really good, and I think, it kind of answered my next question, why is it called the daily temperature reading? And it's because, daily, you're reading the temperature of your partner. Yeah. Like, you want to know, hopefully, if you're married to someone, you want to be on the same page as them. And this goes into marriage, this goes into, if you have kids, family, friends, you can do this with anybody. It's more than just, having a romantic partner. It's, it's so much more than that.
Absolutely. That's kind of something we talk about as well. I've definitely used this with my siblings, with my friends. It's much more dexterous than just romantic partners.
Yeah, and this is also the itinerary for staff meetings.
That is correct. We do use that as our agenda for staff meetings.
Yeah, it's really nice because, we'll go into more and more about the, science about it, especially starting with appreciations, but it's nice going into a meeting in the same way it is going into any relationship or talk with someone. And instead of saying, can we talk? It's saying like, hey, can we do a DTR? And having that thought of like, all right, this is going to take 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah. Like, it's super chill. Nothing bad's going to happen, really. Like,
Not
nothing
bad, but nothing detrimental for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, So what would you say, like, what is the purpose of the DTR?
So when we're teaching like an Adventures in Marriage class, honestly, the DTR is the skill that we use in every single one of our classes, whether it's when we're talking to middle school and high schoolers with our True North project, whether we're talking to premarital couples in Start Smart, Adventures in Marriage, Hope Weekend. We teach this skill to everyone because it's such a basic skill, but if you don't know how to do it, then it's going to be easier and easier for you to drift apart. So the basic reason we teach this and the reason that it's so important is because it's like you were kind of saying, it's that check-in daily to keep connection strong and have the couples bonding on a daily basis. So I'm sure you've heard of either couples or anyone in your life that ever has been like, hey, can we talk? Like, immediately, like, your blood pressure kind of goes up. Yeah. And you kind of get that feeling in your gut, like, oh my gosh, like,
especially
it's about to go down. Yeah. No. Yeah. A lot of people, even if you don't have anxiety, like, that's something that will trigger an anxious response in you because there's so much unknown to those three little words. Can we talk? Usually it's just like, hey, like, I just wanted to tell you, like, we have this thing happening, or like, a lot of the time people will think it's like, oh my gosh, we're going to break up, or oh my gosh, she's going to drop a bomb on me, or he's going to tell me that he's not interested anymore. But we really see the can we talk, like, it's usually a bid for connection. And so, like, instead of saying, hey, can we talk, you could say, hey, like, can we do a DTR? And it's nice because it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And like you said, it's not supposed to take longer than 10 to 15 minutes. So you know you're going to get appreciated. Like that's the thing that we tell couples, like do not skip appreciations. You might not have new information or puzzles, but do not skip appreciations and do not skip prayer requests. Those are like the biggest ones that we want to make sure you're doing. So it's going to be a positive experience. So when you go into a conversation, you're saying, hey, can we do a DTR? It's not going to bring that anxiety to you as much because you know what's going to happen. You know the menu options that you can choose from to talk about. And there's nothing that's going to come like out of left field that's going to just absolutely blindside you and make you regret talking to that person. So that's kind of the why behind doing a daily temperature reading, is to take out that anxiety and the fear of like, hey, can we talk?
Yeah, I feel like it's more of instead of like when I hear you tell me like, hey, can we do a DTR? I don't hear that as like a, hey, can we talk? I hear that as like, hey, can we check in with each other? Because like that's what this mainly is. It's like, hey, I want to get on the same page as you. Yeah. Let's check in with each other. Let's, be emotionally intimate and, take those walls down and, be honest with each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so important about this as well, because it helps lead away from that stigma of can we talk, which is a super huge thing, which is a foreshadowing to you.
Oh my gosh.
Y'all know more about that later. So yeah, obviously the daily temperature reading seems super important to do. It's the basis of, every relationship is communication. And this helps with communication. Yeah. Whether, again, I feel like I'm a broken record, but it's like, this is more than just, do it with your girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife. Yeah. Do it with your family, do it with your parents, do it with your siblings, do it with your friends. Like, this helps so much. And it brings an extra level of, I would say, just being connected as well, because you feel that bond there. No matter who it is, you feel that bond with it.
For sure.
So how do you do the daily temperature reading?
So it's one of the only skills that we do. Well, it's a skill we do that is not like a repeat back. It's not like we want a speaker and a listener. It's kind of more like ping pong, where like I'll lob you an appreciation, you lob me one back, and I'll lob you another appreciation, you lob me one back. So it goes back and forth down the 7 topics. So, we'll both do appreciations, and then once we're done with appreciations, we'll move on to new information. Once we've shared our new information, we'll move on to puzzles, and all the way down the list of topics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good. And does it matter what your body language is when you do something like this? Like, is this something I should do from across the room, or is this something we should do when we're like next to each other?
Yeah, so when we're teaching this in a class, we ask that couples do every skill, not just this skill, but every skill really, in the level and congruent position. So like you were saying, like it's very easy for someone to misinterpret something someone's saying based on body language, based on tone. In fact, they say that 7% of what we communicate is through our words. And so when you're thinking about your texting conversation and you wonder why so many people can't understand the tone of what you're saying, well, you're only giving them that 7% context, just the words.
Wow.
So we encourage couples to sit level and congruent, which basically means they are knee to knee, sitting with their knees touching, leaning towards each other, holding at least one hand, and looking each other in the eyes. So when you're doing that position, it kind of creates that intimacy. When we do it in a class, like even large classes, small classes, couples are like, "Oh, this is kind of intense." And it's like, that's kind of the point. Like we're trying to create bonding, and to create bonding, we have to have us be physically close, emotionally open, and it has to feel safe. And so if you're sitting like that, we are obviously physically close. We are hopefully emotionally open with those eyes being open and like eye contact, holding that hand, and then we're wanting to create safety. And so it's going to be pretty hard to yell at someone or raise our voice or get heated in that position. We've seen it in classes. The research tells us that it's a lot harder to get heated in that level and congruent position. So that's why we ask them to sit like that, because we are trying to build connection. We are not trying to separate or create division. We want them to be bonding. So that is what we have found to be the best way for them to be able to connect.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. Super, super important. And I feel like I mentioned this earlier, but I mean, this leads to an emotional intimacy with each other. And that helps me a lot because I mean, I know I, for one, love being emotionally intimate with you, which leads to physical intimacy, which is great and everything. But like, that's the catalyst for me. That's the beginning, the open door. It's like becoming emotionally intimate makes me, want to be more intimate with you later on. So, for married couples, this can lead to some awesome stuff. But yeah, we give out these little cards at every single program that we do that has the daily temperature reading. I'll throw it up on the screen so everyone knows what it looks like. But yeah, this is the daily temperature reading. Over the next, how many is this? 7? Yeah. So over the next 7 weeks, we're going to be breaking down each one of these topics in the daily temperature reading, starting with appreciations, and then new information, puzzles, complaints, requests for change, apologies, wishes, hopes, and dreams, and prayer requests.
Yeah, and I mean, we probably will combine a few of them because, like, new information puzzles, they're very similar, so I would see them. They'd probably be fine to go together.
Yeah, some belong by themselves, but some can be combined.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
100%.
Yeah. So,
awesome.
I'll ask you a question, though. So when you first learned about the daily temperature reading, what were kind of like your first thoughts? And then after you did it, what was like something that you're like, oh wow, that was interesting?
It definitely threw me off because I'm not, I don't come from a let's talk about feelings background. Yeah. So it definitely was like, okay, like this is, I chuckled at it. I laughed at it. Definitely. I was like, okay, yeah, whatever this is going to do. Sure. But then afterwards going through it helped me have a clearer image and a clearer thought of like where you and I stood. And it helped me feel like we're on the same page and we're caught up with each other's life because so much of life can go past. Yeah. And, we can give each other appreciations in our head all the time and think that we're saying them to each other. Yeah. Or, I learn about new information and, I don't tell you because it's just like I didn't think about it. So that helps a lot because I now know where you and I stand. It helps me give a clear image of our relationship and where we're at. And, as well, just me being super words of affirmation, like starting with appreciations helps a lot because I love hearing appreciations. I love, and, with you being the most important person in my life, there's no one else I want to hear appreciations from than you. Right. Like you're my number one person I want to hear appreciate me. So hearing that as well, it's like, man, like it's great. It fills my love tank in a way. Yeah.
And I love how you were saying like, oh, I'll think of new information. It kind of also gives you a new vocabulary for like when you're talking, like even when we're not doing a DTR, I'll be like, oh, new information, or oh, I have a puzzle about that. Like I'll just kind of throw in the word, which I think is actually very helpful because it will trigger your mind to be more thoughtful towards those things. Like, oh, I do have new information I need to share with you. And so it's not just like things like happening inside of you all the time, but you actually have like vocabulary or like words to express what you're thinking and feeling during the day. I mean, it doesn't have to just be the daily temperature reading. And like you were talking about, I'll go back to the how. So you want to ask permission. You don't want to just like say, hey, we're doing a daily temperature reading. Like sit down, we're doing this. Like ask permission. Hey, can we do a daily temperature reading? Then if your partner or whoever you're doing it with is like, man, I'm really like hungry, angry, lonely, tired. If there are any of those kind of like big emotions that are happening or situations, you really want to delay for like an hour to 24 hours, but not longer than that because obviously they want to connect with you. Like don't put off that connection. So once you've actually like decided on a time to do it, you've asked permission, you go through the skill, you want to express appreciation afterwards. If it's your spouse, like give them a kiss, give them a hug. If it's a friend or a parent, like just a thank you for listening because honestly, they just gave you, like, it's a gift when you listen. It's a gift when you're like, hey, like, thank you so much for doing this with me. Like, I feel closer to you now. So ask permission, do the skill, express appreciation. And that's the basic gist of the how.
Awesome. Yeah. So like I said, over the next couple episodes, we're going to be talking about more in depth of what the skill is and the components that go into it. So we just want to say thank you so much for watching, being part of this, and we hope to teach you more about communication and the DTR and what that means. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe,
Well, and I also forgot to say, if you're watching on the YouTube, like, we didn't even mean to, but we're such FSU colors right now. Like, we're garnet and gold.
I didn't even notice
like,
that.
wow. And you'd only know if you were watching on the YouTube.
It's true. And if you weren't colorblind.
That is true.
Yeah.
Because that's probably,
I see that
that's
like
probably
green.
why you didn't, say it earlier. Because
I see that as like green and orange.
What?
That's like greenish orange. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. For people that don't know, I am red, green deficient colorblind. So, yeah, I don't see that as gold nor yellow.
Yeah. Well,
but,
anywho.
Oh,
so
well.
it's a bid for the YouTube,
Yeah, check out YouTube if you want to see us match FSU colors. Go Noles.
Go Noles.
Yeah. Awesome. Appreciate everybody for watching. Like I said, subscribe, download on all the podcasts you listen to. And thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.